The logistics world is currently going through a turning point that many still underestimate. At first glance, everything looks familiar. Couriers, trucks, warehouses, sorting centers, the same packages at people's doors. But behind the scenes of this industry, a quiet revolution is already taking place, and at its center is Amazon, a giant that has already transformed the delivery market once and is now preparing to do it again. Only this time, it is not just about faster delivery. It is about a complete rethinking of how goods move around the world at all. According to analysts from Morgan Stanley and insiders close to Amazon Prime Air, in recent years, the company has significantly increased investments in experimental areas related to autonomous logistics. While just a few years ago, drones were seen as toys for delivering lightweight parcels, smartphones, medicines, small boxes, today an entirely different level is being discussed inside the company, a level that could potentially transform not only e-commerce, but the entire global economy. This involves so-called heavy-lift drone systems, next-generation heavy cargo drones. According to information published in several technology media outlets, including Bloomberg Tech and Wired, Amazon has been conducting classified development for years on platforms capable of lifting hundreds of kilograms, and, in the future, even tons of cargo. And although the company officially continues to speak about deliveries of 2 to 3 kilograms, sources claim that this is only the tip of the iceberg. Imagine a scenario that until recently seemed like science fiction. You open an app, choose a car, complete the purchase, and just a few hours later, a massive autonomous drone hovers above your home, carefully lowering the vehicle directly onto your driveway. No car carriers, no local warehouses, no weeks of waiting. The same applies to refrigerators, furniture, construction materials, even small modular homes. And the most interesting part is that such scenarios are already being discussed not as fantasy, but as a possible next stage in the evolution of logistics. According to former Amazon robotics engineers, who shared details with journalists on condition of anonymity, the company is considering a hybrid architecture for such drones. These are not classic quadcopters. They are something closer to a combination of a helicopter, a vertical takeoff aircraft, and an autonomous cargo robot. Massive rotors, distributed thrust systems, intelligent stabilization technology, and most importantly, fully autonomous control powered by artificial intelligence. But as soon as the conversation turns to such scale, the main question immediately arises: is this technically even possible? And this is where things become truly interesting. The core problem of heavy drones is energy. Lifting 2 to 3 tons of cargo into the air is a task helicopters can perform, but they consume enormous amounts of fuel. Electric systems on which current drones are based still do not have sufficient energy density. That is why, according to insiders, Amazon is simultaneously exploring several directions: next-generation solid-state batteries, hybrid propulsion systems, and even hydrogen fuel cells. Some sources claim the company is in talks with external contractors working in aviation technologies, including startups involved in eVTOL platforms. The same technologies being developed for flying taxis. The logic is simple. If you can lift a person into the air, then you can also lift cargo. However, energy is only the tip of the iceberg. The second, no less complex problem is safety. Imagine a multi-ton drone flying over a city. Any error, any malfunction, and the consequences could be catastrophic. That is why, according to McKinsey analysts, the development of such systems directly depends on the creation of ultra-reliable control systems, redundancy mechanisms, and navigation technologies. And this is where artificial intelligence enters the stage. The new systems must not only fly, they must analyze weather in real time, avoid obstacles, coordinate with other drones, account for urban density, and even interpret human behavior on the ground. This is no longer just a drone. It is a fully autonomous participant in air traffic. And here we come to another key factor: regulation. Today, no country in the world is ready for the mass deployment of heavy cargo drones over cities. Airspace is strictly controlled, and even small drones require permits, let alone systems capable of transporting cars. According to sources within the FAA and European aviation agencies, discussions about such technologies have already begun, but actual approvals could take 10 to 15 years. Nevertheless, despite all the challenges, investment in this sector continues to grow. Why? The answer is simple: economic impact. If such drones become a reality, they will completely transform supply chains. Warehouses could be moved outside city limits. Delivery would become almost instantaneous. Massive logistics hubs inside megacities would simply lose their purpose. Trucks and freight vehicles would gradually disappear from roads, and with them, entire industries. According to Goldman Sachs analysts, the autonomous logistics market could reach trillions of dollars in the coming decades, and the companies that first master heavy drone technologies will gain a massive advantage. But there is another side to this coin. Millions of people around the world work in logistics: drivers, couriers, warehouse workers. The emergence of fully autonomous systems could lead to a large-scale transformation of the labor market. Some professions will disappear, others will emerge, but the transition period could be extremely painful. In addition, there is the issue of cost. According to preliminary estimates, a single heavy cargo drone could cost from several million to tens of millions of dollars depending on configuration. This means that in the early stages, such systems will only be accessible to the largest corporations. But as history shows, technology costs tend to decrease over time, and then things will become truly interesting. Imagine a city of the future. Above the rooftops, dozens and then hundreds of autonomous drones move silently through the air. They create no traffic jams, are not dependent on roads, and require no drivers. Any item, from a smartphone to a car, can be delivered within hours. And although today this sounds like science fiction, many experts believe we are standing on the threshold of exactly such a future. The only question is who will take the first step. And if insiders are to be believed, Amazon is already preparing to do so, while the company officially continues testing small drones and speaking about gradual technological development behind closed laboratory doors. According to sources, systems are already being built that could change the rules of the game forever. And if even a fraction of these developments prove successful, the world of logistics will never be the same again. But the most important thing in this story is not the drone itself. The most important thing is the new logistics architecture that such drones could create around themselves. Because today, delivery is built on an old model. A product passes through a factory, a warehouse, a regional center, a sorting hub, a truck, a local depot, a courier, and only then reaches the customer. It is an enormous chain in which every step costs money, requires people, fuel, time, and infrastructure. But if heavy cargo drones truly become part of Amazon's system, this chain will begin to compress. Goods will no longer necessarily need to travel by land. They could simply fly over cities, highways, traffic jams, bridges, industrial zones, and even hard-to-reach areas. This is where the real revolution lies. Amazon could build a new type of warehouse system, not just ordinary fulfillment centers, but giant aerial logistics hubs located outside major metropolitan areas. From there, heavy drones would fly directly to customers, stores, car dealerships, construction sites, and corporate clients. That is why, according to industry analysts, the first customers of such systems may not be ordinary consumers, but businesses, construction companies, car dealers, hospitals, industrial enterprises, farms, military contractors, energy companies. Imagine a situation where a construction site urgently needs a heavy generator, an industrial pump, or a batch of metal structures. Today, that could take a day, 2 days, sometimes even a week. But in Amazon's new system, such cargo could be delivered within hours directly from a regional warehouse. For businesses, this does not just mean convenience, it means reduced downtime. And downtime in industry costs enormous amounts of money. If a factory stops due to a missing part, losses can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars per day. And if a heavy drone can deliver that part faster than a truck, companies will be willing to pay enormous amounts for such delivery. This is where Amazon could unlock a market far larger than standard parcel delivery. It is about premium, urgent logistics for heavy cargo. Not mass market, not cheap, not for every order, but for cases where speed matters more than price. And in the early stage, this could become the main source of profit. An ordinary person might ask, why deliver a refrigerator by drone if it can be brought by truck? And that is a fair question. But revolutions rarely begin in the mass market. They begin where technology is expensive but already economically justified. It happened with computers, it happened with electric vehicles, it happened with space launches. First, the technology seems too expensive. Then it is used in narrow niches. Then it scales, becomes cheaper, and suddenly becomes the norm. The same could happen with heavy drones. First, they will deliver critical goods, medical equipment, factory parts, high-value components, emergency spare parts, battery modules, server equipment, industrial tools, then large household appliances and furniture, then construction materials, electric motorcycles, small vehicles, robots, modular capsules, and everything that today seems too heavy for air delivery. But for this to happen, Amazon will need to solve another enormous problem: landing and unloading. Because lifting cargo into the air is one thing, and safely delivering it directly to a home is another. A drone cannot simply drop a car onto a lawn. Special landing platforms, automated cable systems, robotic grippers, precise LiDAR, cameras, pressure sensors, and algorithms capable of determining whether a surface can withstand the load will all be required. And here, an entirely new industry could emerge: home cargo landing infrastructure. Just as people today have garages, EV chargers, and solar panels, in the future, high-end homes could have dedicated reception zones for cargo drones. A platform on the roof, a reinforced yard pad, automated gates, and built-in navigation beacon systems. For ordinary apartments, these would not be private landing pads, but neighborhood drone ports, small logistics terminals located near residential complexes. In effect, delivery would turn into a network of small-scale aerial ports, not airports in the traditional sense, but compact automated stations where drones could land, swap batteries, undergo diagnostics, and unload goods using robots. And this is where Amazon gains another advantage. The company already has an enormous robotic infrastructure. It has warehouses, routing algorithms, AWS cloud computing, demand forecasting systems, automation experience, and millions of customers. In other words, Amazon does not need to build the entire business from scratch. It only needs to add an aerial layer on top of an already existing empire. That is why analysts believe that if the heavy cargo drone market truly begins to form, Amazon could become one of the few companies capable of scaling it rapidly. Startups may have good aircraft, aviation companies may have flight experience, automakers may have manufacturing capacity, but Amazon has what almost no one else has: a real order flow, its own logistics network, and the ability to instantly turn technology into a service. However, this also comes with enormous risks. The first risk is public resistance. People may simply not want to live in a world where massive machines constantly fly over their homes. Even if they are safe, quiet, and environmentally friendly, the psychological barrier would be enormous. It is one thing to accept a small drone carrying a box. It is something entirely different to accept a vehicle the size of a truck carrying a refrigerator, a car, or a construction container overhead. The second risk is noise. Even modern small drones create an irritating sound, and heavy aircraft would require far more powerful thrust. Engineers will try to solve this through new propeller designs, distributed thrust systems, noise reduction technologies, and optimized routing, but eliminating sound entirely is impossible. Therefore, early flight routes will likely avoid dense residential areas and instead pass over industrial zones, highways, rivers, coastlines, and pre-approved aerial corridors. The third risk is cybersecurity. An autonomous cargo drone is not just a vehicle. It is a flying computer carrying enormous mass and extremely valuable cargo. It cannot be allowed to be hacked, intercepted, or disabled. That is why Amazon will need to build a multi-layered security system: encryption, satellite communication, redundant channels, autonomous return protocols, geofencing, GPS spoofing protection, and continuous cloud-based monitoring. And here, AWS could become Amazon's hidden weapon, because managing thousands of heavy drones will require massive computational infrastructure. Each aircraft will generate terabytes of data: maps, weather, video, telemetry, battery status, engine health, routes, traffic, permissions, landing zones. All of this must be processed instantly, and Amazon could build an entire cloud platform for aerial logistics that would later be used not only by its own drones, but also by other companies. In other words, Amazon could earn twice, first from delivery and then from the infrastructure powering the entire industry. And if that happens, the consequences would be enormous. Automotive logistics would be among the first to change. Today, delivering a car is a complex process. Factory, rail transport, car carrier truck, dealer, paperwork, handover. But if manufacturers could send vehicles directly to customers via heavy drones, the role of dealerships would begin to shrink, especially in the case of electric vehicles, which are already sold online. Tesla, Rivian, Chinese brands, new startups, all of them could be interested in direct aerial delivery. The furniture market would also change. IKEA, Wayfair, Home Depot, construction retailers, all of them could shift toward a new model where large goods are delivered not through congested roads but through the air. For consumers, this would mean a dramatic reduction in waiting time. Order a sofa in the morning, receive it in the evening. Order a refrigerator, and within a few hours it is already standing next to your home. But at the same time, traditional carriers will take a hit. Small trucking companies, local delivery services, parts of the courier industry, and certain warehouse operators will all come under pressure. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually. Where people and vehicles were once required, autonomous routes will appear instead, and then a new kind of competition will begin. Not for roads, but for airspace. Companies will compete for approved flight corridors, drone ports, communication frequencies, landing zones, and access to urban airspace. Municipalities will begin to create new rules. Where can you fly? At what time? At what noise level? What type of cargo is allowed? Who is responsible in case of an accident? Who insures the package if a drone damages a rooftop? Can a car be delivered into a residential courtyard? Who is liable if a person accidentally enters a landing zone? These questions may sound boring, but they will determine the speed of the revolution. The technology may be ready before the law allows it to operate. Therefore, the real timeline for such systems will not depend on Amazon alone. If we are honest, full-scale drone delivery of cars is unlikely to appear in just a couple of years. But the first pilot projects of heavy cargo drones for industrial goods could emerge much earlier. In restricted zones, private territories, between warehouses, on islands, in remote regions, on military sites, and in places where traditional logistics is too expensive. This is how the future usually begins. Not with a polished global launch, but with a quiet test somewhere in a closed facility. First one route, then 10, then hundreds. Then regulators get used to it. People get used to it. Investors get used to it. And what once looked like dangerous science fiction suddenly becomes a normal part of life. Amazon understands this logic perfectly. That is why the company will not immediately announce, "We are building drones that will deliver cars." That would trigger too many questions, criticism, and regulatory pressure. It is far more rational to move step by step. First small parcels, then heavier cargo, then inter-warehouse transfers, then industrial clients, then large household appliances, and only then, vehicles. But if you look at the strategy more broadly, it becomes clear. Amazon does not just want to deliver faster. Amazon wants to control the physics of delivery itself. That is, to no longer depend on roads, drivers, traffic jams, schedules, local contractors, or the human factor. The company wants to build a system where an order turns into motion almost instantly. You press a button, the algorithm finds the item, selects a drone, obtains route clearance, checks weather conditions, prepares the landing zone, and sends the cargo. This is no longer just an online store. It is a logistics operating system for the physical world. And if such a system appears, it will change people's expectations themselves. Today, we are used to waiting several days for large items. Tomorrow, waiting several days will feel absurd, just as it now feels strange to wait months for a letter, even though that was once normal. Technology does not just speed up processes, it changes what we consider normal. In this sense, heavy cargo drones could become for logistics what smartphones became for communication. First, an expensive and unusual technology, then a convenient tool, then infrastructure without which life is unimaginable. The only question is who will first manage to make it safe, cheap, and scalable. And judging by how Amazon has built its delivery empire over decades, the company is certainly not planning to stay a spectator in this race. Because the future of logistics will not belong to those who have more trucks. It will belong to those who first lift delivery into the air.